Wonton Boys.
So hi everyone, my name is Edbert, and this is
Wonton Boys.
we also have Peter here, and this is our first podcast. So Peter, why don't you say something
Yes.
about yourself? Yeah.
So my name is Peta, Peta, and I'm a Chinese who studied in Canada and the United States for 10 years. Now I'm living in China and working in China as well. How about you, Edbert?
Great. I am an
What are you?
I don't know, what am I? So I was born in Hong Kong, and then I actually grew up in the Midwest in St. Louis. And then I met Peter in college. And so I'm living in St. Louis right now, but I've been in Boston and New York most of my adult life. Yeah.
Yeah, so that steeps into, what are you? I guess that's the topic of today's little podcast, right? What does it mean to be Asian? What does it mean to a lot of people out there, right? Like who's having this problem? Like what does it mean to be Asian American, Asian Canadian, Asian Australian, or Asian Chinese Asian, I guess.
Right. So many
Yeah.
hyphenated words. The standard definition is everyone that I guess is ethnically from a big part of the world called Asia, and that's as we know, it's like 60% of the world's population is Asian. And so I mean, coming in like in a specific Western kind of view, you're sort of always an immigrant in a way.
Yeah. Where are you from, right? Where are you really from?
Right. They always ask you those two questions. So where do you think you're from, Peter? Are you from Canada or are you from China?
Well, I think I'm from China. Well, also I work and live in China right now, so I think the kind of scene is very different. Like people ask where are you from, they usually ask which province you're from, you know. But I think this kind of how should I put it? Like this kind of like racist culture also exists in China. Like if you're a foreigner, right, then it's really hard to get assimilated because I also know a few non-Asians who work in China, and
Right.
yeah, it's tough for them because like people are gonna speak English to them even though they speak fluent Cantonese or Mandarin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think I identify 100% as an American because my parents were immigrants already, and so I wasn't in Hong Kong that long really, and I still work and live here, and so that's what makes sense. I think in general, I think folks over here have in the past couple of years, because during the pandemic specifically, that they have gotten heightened awareness of the sort of racism or discrimination that Asian Americans have experienced in America, and I guess in the West specifically. But I think they don't have that much exposure to the idea of foreigners experiencing racism in China. So Peter, I think that's a pretty interesting topic.
Yeah, well, it's kind of two-sided because like this kind of foreigner issue, well, it's prejudice really on two sides. Like a lot of foreigners, especially when we talk about like 10 years, like in the 2010s or in the early 2000s, they actually get a lot of perks from being in China, but a lot of inconvenience too, because I have a friend who is like a grad student from like University of Oxford, and then she's applying to become like a foreign tutor, like English tutor. Like she's fluent in Cantonese, Mandarin, English,
Cool.
Spanish, and Japanese, and French. And then the Chinese school would still not accept her, and also her nationality is Canadian, right? So, but then her school still doesn't accept her because like she is an immigrant to Canada from China, and then she's trying to apply to China as a foreigner to become like a teacher there. And the school would actually reject her because she's Chinese.
Right.
I think that's kind of bullshit. I think she had a hard time, doing that as well. But she still found school in the end. But just to tell you kind of the extent of kind of the quote unquote like the racism rate that's happening in China, or the prejudice really.
And it really cuts both ways, and
yeah.
I think because of our, history of colonialism and all these things that have come about in the 19th and 20th century, it seems like, most people still have this sort of conception of sort of, white people being English speakers and them being the most proficient at it.
Yeah.
And
Well, white and English speaking, right? Really.
right, right. And Asians, perhaps in this country, being still more sort of classified as sort of like the working class or the workers or people who do sort of math and science as sort of their sort of expertise. Hopefully that's slowly changing.
I think that perspective is, well, definitely wrong, because but that is also due to a lot of characterization, right? Like, for example, like I watched Tiffany's recently, the movie of Audrey Hepburn,
Mhm.
right? The landlord in that movie, he's Asian, right? Like it's just like this like squinty-eyed man, right, trying to like trying to get her rent. And I think the actor is white. Maybe that's wrong. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even the actor for that character is white. So like historically, I think there's just like such poor representation in popular culture of of the of this particular our race, really. I mean, look at music, right? There are a lot of Asian musicians who are trying to make it out there, but I don't think they have gotten that far.
Yeah.
Think like Dumbfounded, like from LA, or like even like MC Jin, like he didn't go that far.
Yeah, it seems like they're still sort of typecasted as like Asian American musicians that only really cater to Asians, but they haven't really
Yeah,
made
or they play the cello, right, or the piano,
right, or
right.
they do classical music, and they're still kind of, haven't broken out mainstream. And it's funny because it seems like the people that have broken out mainstream in America, specifically in music, are folks from Asia, right?
Fun fact, I just found this out like the other day
Yeah.
because I was listening to like a lecture. Nora Jones, right?
Hmm.
She is actually the daughter of like a very famous sitar player, like the
Oh,
Indian
really?
instrument. She's like the daughter of like the most famous sitar player in India.
Wow.
That
Oh,
means she's Indian, right? Like, but people don't know that because people
right.
just thought like, oh, she's like Hispanic or something. I don't know. Yeah,
That's
she's like a blues singer. So I
right.
think she's from like the early 2000s. Yeah, so she's not as famous compared to like Ariana Grande, for example, right?
Right, right. And so it's interesting that, you have Latino or, Black or white sort of musicians and entertainers that have gained super great prominence in America, but not so much, I think, specifically Asians. And I guess, are we really talking about just East Asians specifically, or also Indians and Arabs, and do you consider those as Asians as well?
I do, but I think that I do consider them as Asian because they're geographically in Asia. I'm just saying. I think what I was trying to say was East Asian, like like Thai, Malay, Filipino, Korean, Japanese, yeah,
Right,
and
right.
of course Chinese, right? Like, but like I guess, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think the perspective for me right now is a little bit different because like being in China as as a Chinese person, it's really like we don't experience that kind of problems with races here because like what is Asian, what's an Asian problem, right? Like there's a lot of Asian problems in America, I think, uh, but then in China, like that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
it goes. It's really more about how America is a multiracial, multicultural society, and in China it's a bit more homogenous. But I do remember
yeah.
reading about how some African foreign workers in China also received racism.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's not that, racist problems don't exist in other countries, but perhaps it's almost like whoever's the minority and they're the ones that sort of face challenges.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just like yeah, to a large extent it's a minority problem, I think. But I'm not saying that's right though, right? It's just
Of course.
Yeah, I think. I mean, like I have friends who like who just gets like shouts like in America, right? Like gets like shouts off the street or getting catcalled because like they were Asian.
Right. Contextualizing it in the larger way, I guess we're saying that the racism that Asian Americans experience in the West and in America is a very kind of specific condition, but then in the rest of Asia and in the motherland, then it's more about the people that migrate to those countries for sort of work and opportunity that face challenges.
I also think like also a very important another very important point is that because there's very little like second generation like African Chinese because
Right.
like there is just so little, right? Like there are probably like 100 in the city of 10 million. So I think for America another problem is because like the Chinese immigrants, the Korean immigrant, they have such a long history here. So there are a lot of people who are already detached from their OG culture, um, like being like the third or the fourth generation immigrants because immigration really began in the 19th century or even earlier to America, right? So in China, that kind of doesn't exist because the immigration to China is what like from like the 1990s, right? Like that's like fucking like the 30 years from
Yeah.
yeah, right. That's a very big problem. I think is not the OG immigrants that usually have these issues. There are people who more like they were born in America, who has experienced these things.
Perhaps America is just kind of much farther ahead, in the history of immigration. Perhaps in
Mm-hmm.
couple in another 100 years, you might see China become more multicultural and have more foreigners that have moved to China for better opportunities and have settled down. And you wonder how the second generation of other races in China would face similar types of discrimination as well.
Yeah, I mean possibly because because there's just like a longer history of immigration to America, really. I think compared to that of China.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. We're just sort of earlier ahead of the curve, I guess. And it's funny,
Yeah.
in a way, you could say that immigration started in China, during the 1990s when they started having foreign workers. In essence, foreigners have been in China for a long time, right? There's sort of
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
that.
Because especially in like the Cantonese area, right? But like the notion of country like doesn't really exist, right? In like the 19th century China. So a lot of people from where I'm from, which is around the Canton area, Guangdong area, a lot of them actually have like properties in Vietnam and Malaysia. Like that was back in the Qing dynasty, so almost 200 years from now. So there's actually a lot of cross-pollination, going on. But it's just because but like look, like the people like Vietnamese people, like they don't look too much different from the Cantonese people, right? So it's really hard to tell. Like it's almost impossible to tell after like a few generations.
Yeah.
So you can, in that way, you can also say China's history is also about assimilation because you know we assimilated the Hans as well, right? So,
Right.
but it's just spanned through like a longer period of time until this kind of like racism doesn't exist. But it's also funny because a lot of foreign, like you would think like Chinese culture is very like quote unquote Chinese, but no, that's not true because Chinese, like so much of Chinese culture is actually molded by foreign culture as well.
Right.
Like a lot of actually, a lot of words in Chinese came from Buddha, who is Indian, right? Like even the word for like universe is from Buddha, and the word for architecture come from Japan. So it's because China was in shambles in the beginning of like 20th century. So during that period, actually China absorbed a lot of Western culture, more so than you would expect.
Right. And I think we still look at the history books as this time period as the sort of century of humiliation for China. But I think it's a bit more nuanced than that. And then
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, you can say that, yeah, that's a very textbook kind of answer, right? Censure, humiliation. But then like it's a learning process, I think. And I think like it's a learning process like both ways, I think. In a sense that right now, like we're still learning a lot from the US as far as like, like how to operate a lot of things. But then yeah, but then like but we have been learning. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
right,
It's not yeah. It's
it,
not so much different compared to how the US was learning from, I guess, like the Europeans, or still am learning from like some of the European countries, the social welfare system.
funny that you mentioned that because it always seems like, in sort of current day, Europe seems so far ahead as a civilization that they've sort of reached a post-society world where everything is supposed to be really great and they have social welfare and everyone's really happy. And then in America, we're still kind of trying to get ahead and get wealthy. And then, of course, then you move into the developing countries, even like China and Africa and South America, where they seem to still be sort of pursuing that European ideal.
American ideal, actually, not the European ideal, because America has such like a strong influence in a lot of aspects culturally in a lot of these countries. Like there are a lot of cities which are modeled after like American, and then there's like American food was supposed to be like the like that was actually changing just now, right? Within the past 3 years, I see a lot of Chinese food actually came up, like because I guess you haven't been in China for so long, but there's like a Chinese like they make Chinese food like McDonald's. Like now there's like kind of like a McDonald's version of like a noodle shop, which didn't exist when you were there. I guess you saw some of them, right? You saw the automatic like noodle cooking machine, right?
Yeah,
Remember?
I think
Yeah. So the idea was that a lot of Chinese fast food restaurants are taking technologies from like McDonald's and KFCs, which are supposed to be like making food a lot faster and then making really cheap, good Chinese food to the customers. Like that usually wasn't the case like before, right? Before you have like walk person, like what you see in America. But now the game has changed, right? Now like a lot of Chinese food is all supply chain, mass produced, mass produced like noodle sauce, mass produced hot pot soup base, right? Like from a factory, and then it's shipped to the store, and then they do their like like the chicken nuggets, right? They do like their like double frying thing, right?
right.
Sorry, yeah, that's sorry. I kind of like went ahead, but then the idea is that like they use prefabricated products for the food, but it makes production faster, and that's quote unquote more advanced compared
More
to.
profitable, right? Just sort of thinking backwards, even in the 19th century, America was copying everything that they had from the Europeans, and America was
Yeah,
the developing country of the time. And so you would have cases where, Americans copied all the architecture in Europe, they copied the political systems, they would copy, even industrial blueprints. So the story I remember from American history here was that, Robert Fulton, who sort of, invented the first American steamboat, he essentially just like memorized the drawings of a steamboat in England and then like, stole a boat and came back to America and built
yeah.
a whole steamboat ship. So this idea of cultural exchange and sort of learning and potentially sort of stealing from each other has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. But I think, yeah, it's really funny because right now the Chinese actually are not copying America per se because they're actually copying the Japanese. Because, like during the Japanese economic boom, like they copy everything from like the Germans and the Europeans. So that's where you see like Toyota, Honda, right? These guys, and also what Mitsubishi, right? Like those guys, a lot of their like cars were copied from like Volkswagen and like Chevrolets, right? But then now it's really funny because now a lot of these Japanese are setting up like they set up factories in the 2000s in China. So now the Chinese car companies got all their old technologies. So they just kind of reskin the Odysseys, like the Honda Odysseys, into like their own version of like of the minivan. And then they reskin a lot of different cars into like the Chinese brands. So in a way, right, like that's kind of like the kind of culture transcription really, from one to another. It's really funny, but not directly to Americans because I think a lot of Japanese firms set up factories in China pretty early on. Like the foreign influence is pretty clear to me at least, but I think a lot of people, well, it's not something like to be publicized on, but a lot of technologies they come from Japan or Korea or Taiwan even,
Right.
or the Taiwan, because a lot of there are a lot of Japanese factory was first set up in Taiwan. So
Right.
yeah,
Asian tigers, right, in the 70s and 80s.
yeah, and
And I know intellectual property is a big topic in America and sort of the ongoing political issue here. But we just want to think that even Americans used to copy other people as well, and that's sort of not highlighted enough that we're not the originators of things as well. So there are always all kinds of cultural exchanges and how people and ideas move around that are perhaps through legal but also illegal channels. So
yeah, I think definitely more complex than you might expect. I guess that's today's podcast, really, like starting from what it means to be Asian, right? Like to kind of the cross-pollination between different cultures,
Right.
quote unquote, the East and the West. What used to be, Europe to America, the East and the West, now become like, like Europe to China or America to China, right? Like that kind of cross influence. I think that's something that we can think about for a little bit and see how much these different cultures have learned from each other.
Yeah, and absolutely. And maybe we can think of racism and discrimination and prejudice as just sort of a sort of a learning process for everyone to sort of move away from what they know as an established fact and to sort of move forward with rather than attacking people for being different from you, but more about learning about ideas specifically,
Mhm.
how that
Yeah,
translate and sort of improves societies and countries.
yep.
Great. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I guess see you next episode.
See you at the next episode. Yeah. Bye, Peter.